What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty Peak here with another episode of Steelers Touchdown Under in our War Room series, our show that likes to put you in the minds of Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, Andy Weidel, and the rest of the Steelers front office as they put together a winning roster in 2024 and beyond. Hopefully, a roster that can compete for a 7th Lombardi trophy. All right, well, it's been a little bit quiet on the channel the last few days. I do apologize for that. There's been some crazy things going on in my life outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but we're trying to catch up on that. We'll be doing lots of different shows still. It's been a crazy couple of days. Steelers obviously been having OTAs. Cam's back. That's kind of the big news around Cam Hayward, training in or the hold in and all those good things. We have had Cam Sutton rejoin the Steelers. Bring up some comments from him. Wanted to quickly cover that off before we get in the main focus on the show, which is the Steelers lineup, which is the Steelers depth chart. That is what I really want to focus today's show on because it's been a little while since we did that on the channel. In fact, when I went back to update the depth chart with the cool graphic that we have that our subs are used to over the last sort of 12 months or so, I actually hadn't plugged in the guys from draft day, so it's going to be kind of cool to look at that later on in the show. But look, covering off Cam Sutton first. Look, there's a lot of people out there that are really happy about this. A lot of people predicted this. I know some of our subs did as well. I've heard it a lot in the chat. I know a lot of people are happy to have him back. I know some people are cranky about the off-the-field stuff, but say, everyone deserves a second chance. I believe everyone deserves a second chance. It was a misdemeanor battery. It wasn't a battery or fully fledged assault. However, I don't love it, if I'm honest. Does it say things about Beanie Bishop? I don't think so. I think that does it say things about Josiah Scott? Maybe. We've had a couple of videos that we've done in the last month or so, heavily focused around cornerbacks and slot corners. I can link them as well in this. But look, Cam Sutton is an experienced guy. You can't argue with experience. He's faster. He's younger than a Pat P. Pat P in certain, yes, Pat P can play slot corner. People want to see him come back to do that. But at the same time, Pat P, there's some schemes where he'd be terrible slot corner with the lack of pace or the steps of pace that he's lost. So I did think it was cool from Cam Sutton in the way he said it's amazing that he's back. He came into a great foundation, and that's the organization. The bloke did sign a 3-year deal for $33 million with Detroit. It's a couple of million apparently with the Steelers. He's happy to be here. He got the Herbig, happy to be here. Had a career high tackles when he was at the Lions. They did make the NFC Championship game and what have you. So, look, it will be interesting. It was also interesting to see that he actually sold his house in Pittsburgh right before the deal came out. Maybe that's a monetary thing. Maybe it's, these things are not guaranteed with the Steelers. But look, Cam Sutton is here, and that changes the slot corner position. So let's get into talking through the Steelers depth chart. All right, so those who are new to the channel, we have a depth chart that I like to continue through. We lay it out a particular way that makes sense when we're going through different position by position on offense and on defense. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I look at my overall depth chart, I'm going to try to make this as big as I can for you guys watching on the screen right now. All right, so we're going to go skill positions, and then we'll go through the offensive line and what have you. Now, I have about 58 guys. There are 58 guys, a couple of guys slotting in multiple positions that are here. So the guys in red are guys that are starter capable potentially, but I don't think necessarily going to be on the 53 based on the roster that they've got today. Now, cornerback, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kyle Allen. We had all those blokes before the draft. Obviously, Plumlee's there as well, but he's probably the odd man out right now. But let's see once we go through training camp. And you got Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Cordell Patterson, and Edwards out of Georgia. I'm actually quite high on this bloke. I like this bloke. There's a lot of big talk about the Samson kid, or Sampling kid, sorry, I should say. But I like Edwards. I like a lot of his production. I talked about him a bit on the live that we did, the last live we did last weekend. And I like what I see out of Edwards. Obviously, Connor Hayward, you've got him slotted in the H-back fullback role. Tight end is Darnell Freemuth and Connor Hayward. Now, obviously, you've got Mecole Pruitt in there. You've got Rodney Williams that's around. There's a few blokes vying for additional spots. I think there's a couple of the guys that they've got in the camp as well. Mecole Pruitt is probably the most likely to make it there from the blocking perspective. But I also kind of feel he's a little bit odd man out with Connor Hayward right now as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I do think Michael Pruitt will definitely make the practice squad as a veteran bloke. When it comes to wide receivers and this group of blokes, it's kind of interesting because really, there's a lot of question about the Steelers potentially trying to get Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. I'll tell you, after the Justin Jefferson deal, I think this is a much less likely situation. They're going to try and find the second bloke out of these guys. Most likely, probably Wilson or Austin. But Jefferson offers a bit as a good third. Watkins could be a decent fourth. Cordell Patterson gives you options. Obviously, we know in the Arthur Smith offense, the first wide receiver. Now, I haven't put Scotty Miller there, right? I'll tell you why in a moment. But obviously, we know the number one wide receiver is going to get a heap of targets, heap of yards. The second guy is probably going to get less. Now, I haven't put Scotty Miller there because Scotty Miller is really good on speed, but Austin's probably better on speed. Scotty Miller is a pretty decent route runner, but Van Jefferson is probably a decent route runner. Because Watkins offers a little bit of everything. If I'm picking a 53 today, I definitely want Scotty Miller on my practice squad. But Scotty Miller probably doesn't make the way I'm going from a wide receiver perspective, particularly with considering what Roman Wilson brings to the mix. That's how I feel about it. Let me know in the comments at this point in the show whether you're against that or not, but I don't see that, right? Moving on to the offensive line. Now, this was a massive change in terms of when I last had this depth chart because Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu, not there. Big gap at starting center, big gap at right tackle because the Steelers had said when I did the April depth chart last time I did this, that, Broderick Jones was going to most likely move to the left. That's why they drafted him. So that is huge that the Steelers in the draft in round 1 and round 2 fill those 2 spots. Absolutely huge. This offensive line changes for the better. It's awesome. Now, there's 5 guys here. Spencer Anderson. You got Nate Herbig. One guy that I was remiss, and this is what I wanted to do live on the show with you guys, is Spencer Anderson slots in now at the right guard. That's his best place. I watched hours of tape on this point. This is the best place. And now, obviously, we've got Mason McCormick. So that's kind of cool as well. And I do think he will make the roster. So there are 9 blokes, right? Steelers don't usually take 9 blokes. So to me, and people can find this controversial, to me it's between Nate Herbig and Spencer Anderson. Can Spencer Anderson snap the football and prove that he can take Nate, can be worthy of having a roster spot over Nate Herbig? Now, Nate Herbig is a cap hit about 1.46 and a cap saving of $4 million. That could be very helpful if you're going to sign a wide receiver or another corner or a defensive lineman, wherever you feel that there's the hole on the Steelers team. Yes, that's very cheap for a decent backup. But we didn't see a stack ton of Nate Herbig last year. So and yes, the line stayed mostly fit, but how good a backup is he really? The other thing you got to remember too is with James Daniels off contract, there's already been that talk that, he knows there was that question about what did he feel about going to contract year. And he said, well, Steelers aren't talking to me about that, which means that they probably are going to really give Spencer Anderson a shot at becoming a key part of this roster. But Spencer Anderson, as Shannon and I covered on recent Global Perspective shows, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago now, we covered the fact that Spencer Anderson got a helmet and was a 7th round draft pick. The Steelers clearly see something in Spencer Anderson. So this is a camp battle that's going to be super crucial to watch. And we'll probably preview that a bit more in the lead up to training camp in about 4 weeks' time. We should know the dates of all of that. But that's kind of the offensive line, and I think it's kind of cool because, as I said, for you to go into one draft and get Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu across, and then Mason McCormick as a backup. From the previous draft to go have Spencer Anderson and Broderick Jones. If Spencer Anderson could beat out Nate Herbig, then you've got effectively 5 blokes on the Steelers' offensive line that now you're in a situation where 5 of those blokes are coming 2 drafts, very cheap line, very, very cheap line on rookie deals. That's kind of the offense. Let's look at the defense. Now, the defense has too many players on it. That's why I've got 3 blokes in red. But what I thought was interesting, and I want to talk about the perspective of, I feel like the Marvin Leal still has a chance of making the practice squad. To me, he's on the outer. I guess I'm going to put this player in orange for you guys that are listeners that are used to this. Sometimes we do orange blokes that we could see on the practice squad, because there's another bloke that we can add in here after the draft, and that's Logan Lee, right? Logan Lee out of Iowa. I'm really high on Logan Lee. Do I think he probably needs to sit for a year and develop? Yes. Do I want him on a practice squad where he can be, taken? No. I do think Loudermilk is the odd man out. I think the Steelers, with the way they're building their front, although you're seeing a lot of him at OTAs for Hoko, I think I was going to D that B, Broden Hoko. But I think for Hoko's clearly in there. Benton may want to move more to the defensive end. They didn't move him out. Lowry is Travis Adams isn't really an interior or no, he's not a nose tackle, put it that way. He's interior defensive lineman 3-4, but not a nose tackle. But does produce some pass rush from there, so that's kind of cool. But Logan Lee and Dean Lowry are more sort of defensive end in a 3-4, more interior guys in a 4-3. Of course, you've got Ogunjobi and Hayward. Now, Hayward, obviously, fighting for a new contract, still thinks he's top 5 at the position. Some people will agree with that. Some people won't. I'm not going to end that debate on this show. Ogunjobi is someone that if his cap hit was lower, dead cap hit, he probably would have potentially been moved on this offseason, but definitely. So Logan Lee is the interesting piece here. I like Logan Lee to make it over Loudermilk, but that's just me. That's what I'm hopeful for. And then let Fahoko be a nose tackle when you want to play a nose tackle. Or move Benton in there. Or, if Hayward is fit and playing well, do that, right? Outside linebacker is kind of an interesting one. Usually Steelers like to have at least 4 outside linebackers. There's probably a question mark there. There's obviously guys that can emerge at training camp. I do like, I'll put him here as on this show, Jeremiah Moon. I do like that bloke. But there's a few other guys at training camp as well. There's the German kid, Welscholf, on the internet. I probably butchered his name. The international player, he's in there for the Steelers as well, but he counts as a different spot on the team. But I kind of like Moon at the moment as that 4th guy that they could have a look at. But we'll have to see, because there's a few different blokes on the roster. There's obviously David Perales. There's a few different blokes, but definitely TJ Watt, obviously Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith. That's a great 3 outside linebacker rotation with Herbig coming in to spell either of these guys. And hopefully we see that more. I just rather this fresh rotation this year. Obviously, I want TJ Watt in the field a lot of the time. Obviously, Alex Highsmith sets a decent edge, but I think Nick Herbig could be a real asset to these blokes, particularly where they play the 4 games in 11 days. They play a lot of a difficult schedule down the stretch. Nick Herbig could be a real asset for the Steelers defense and being able to make playmaking defense. Then you got Patrick Queen, Cole Holcomb, Peyton Wilson, Alanham Roberts, Mark Robinson, and there's obviously some other linebackers around in the Steelers mix as well. I do like, obviously Holcomb's probably going to still be injured to start a little bit of the season. I really like this 4. I do think Mark Robinson is the odd man out. I'm not afraid to say that. People like him, but I think he's a practice squad guy at this point, and it's probably a make or break year. We've said that on a few Global Perspective shows, the show that I do that comes out over the weekend with Shannon White, who was also on the Steel Curtain Network. So I think when it comes to Mark Robinson, he has to have a lights out camp, or it's probably going to be practice squad at best for him. Sliding across to more of the skill positions and special teams. Now, obviously, cornerback, Steelers went and traded Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson. Obviously, that was in the April stuff anyway. Corey Trice, Darius Rush, Joey Porter Jr. Picked up Beanie, they're all there. Picked up Beanie Bishop in as a UDFA. You also drafted, and again, Ryan Watts. And this is kind of interesting because up until the signing of Cam Sutton, you might have said Ryan Watts, probably makes it there as a slot corner to back up Beanie Bishop. Josiah Scott then becomes a veteran on the practice squad. With Ryan Watts in the mix, that I think actually puts a lot of pressure on Darius Rush. Now, people are going to say they're different types of corners, but the Steelers already have Corey Trice and Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson as outside guys. None of these guys really you want to be playing in the slot. You could, if you wanted to, try Trice. It would be a waste of Porter Jr. Dante Jackson is not a slot guy. So that's kind of one of the difficult things as well about the Steelers cornerback room, and therefore it kind of makes sense that they went out and got Cam Sutton. But it's probably made a bit of a challenge for Ryan Watts, except for the fact that Ryan Watts has an opportunity to play possibly into that safety role, can stretch across into that safety role. So that's kind of interesting as well. Obviously, with safeties, we've got Kazi, Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott. I'm really big fan of him. And Killeber is just a strong safety, really is a special teamer. He's a pump blocker. And you obviously got Boswell, Johnson, and Christian Kuntz as well. Marky D's favorite bloke from Steel Nation Australia, Christian 46. Now, if I remove, let's say, Jamal out, practice squad bye, Mark Robinson, practice squad bye, Loudermilk, practice squad bye, right? We look at these guys. I'm going to zoom out for everyone just so it's easy for me to do this. We're going to go here. We suddenly get to 30 players on defense now and special teams. Fair, right? We go bye-bye Pruitt. Now, I also know Cordell Patterson features twice. 26. So there's 56. Oh, I got a minus just so I got. Let's go again. So we go there. We go 29. That's including special teams. And then we go here, 26. So we're talking 55 blokes. So there's 2 blokes here that can't make it, which is why I think there's this battle between Darius Rush and Ryan Watts. It's also why you might only see the Steelers carry 2 quarterbacks on the 53, and then they're pulling the other quarterback in Kyle on that practice squad. However, with the way they signed Kyle Allen, I think it's less likely you'll see that. So there's 6 wide receivers here. Obviously, Cordell Patterson slots into 2 spots, and I got Connor Hayward technically in 2 spots as well. But you probably think then it's a Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson battle at that position, unless they do move Herbig on, because otherwise they're going to have 9 offensive linemen. They probably will want to carry 8. So there's definitely, I think, some camp battles that we can preview. So Herbig versus Anderson. It's a Watts versus Rush. It's a Loudermilk versus Lee, but I've already moved Loudermilk on there. Cordell Patterson, where are you fitting? Jefferson, Watkins, Austin. What's that battle look like? So there's going to be some really interesting, and then obviously Kyle Allen, Plumlee, Kyle Allen. What's the gap? Between him and Fields and Wilson. You'd hope it's big, but we don't know. So that's why I thought I'd take you guys through as Steel fans, even NFL fans out there, general NFL fans. I thought I'd take you through the Steelers depth chart, because when we look at the Steelers lineup and their depth chart, there's definitely some interesting things for us to watch at OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and into Steelers training camp in Latrobe. And so seeing how the Steelers let this take shape, plus with the cuts from other teams, plus with guys that become available after this June window, very interesting to see. But now that we've gone through the whole depth chart position by position, is there a position that on this list that you still think is weak? You let me know in the comments. I'm really keen to hear it. Or is there a position that you actually, having heard me talk through it, you think is stronger than when you first thought it or before you listened to this show? Again, let me know in the comments. I'm Matty P. As always, go Steelers.